We've got an upcoming lunar eclipse in Pisces. What in the world does this mean for people? And what's the one illusion we need to release right now?
We are all in a wild soup of revolutionary change. We are always doing this, but it feels higher stakes for me that we're in an individual experience that is aligned with a collective experience. None of us are escaping this sort of crazy moment. So there is, in fact, two ways that the solar system is working with this full moon eclipse. That has to do with shadow and looking at things that we've not been willing to look at. So all of us are getting an opportunity in this first eclipse, that's a full moon, to...
Are you ready to shine? Shine bright. Woo-hoo. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've been wondering about the fall lunar eclipse and why the energies have been so insane and whether they'll calm down, then do we have the Fall Astrological Predictions show for you. Today, I'll be talking with Dr. Michael Lennox, my all-time favorite astrologer, author of brilliant book, Psychic Dreamer, and creator of the Daily Astro Alert about what's happening in the stars and what they mean for you. So welcome back to the show, Michael. Are you ready to shine?
I am. I'm ready.
Woohoo! All right, I'm woohooing now. Later on, I might be crying. We'll get there. Before we dive right into things, Michael, we've got an upcoming lunar eclipse in Pisces, or maybe people are catching this late, which is still perfectly on time, and it's just taken place. What in the world does this mean for people, and what's the one illusion we need to release right now?
Well, the one illusion we need to release right now is that if we try to do the world right now on the world's terms through like grit and free will, I think we're going to be lost. I don't know how anybody's doing this without putting a spiritual connection first. That's the theme of where the nodes are that create eclipses. And that's a big theme about any full moon where the sun is in Virgo and the moon is in Pisces. Spiritual connection comes first. Nothing's more important than that.
Thank you. So, and I guess I'm going to want to go there about Virgo because we're recording this the day after my birthday. But first off, what exactly is an eclipse? What does it mean for us? And is it really important?
Oh my God, yes, they're fabulously important. And one thing about eclipses, there's a kind of a camp of things that are happy accidents for us. The Goldilocks zone where we are in the solar system, the tilt of the earth that created seasonality. And the most brilliant one is the fact that the moon is like 400 times smaller than the sun, which is 400 times further away from us. And what that means is that when we look up in an eclipse, the disks are exactly the same size. So the relentless beam of light of consciousness from the sun, which is always moving out in all directions of time and space, when the shadow passes, which is really us moving through the shadow, it's like turning the computer off and then turning it on again. We turn psyche off, consciousness off, and reboot it every 6 months. So yeah, they're very important because it might even be on some wild energetic level that because we eclipse periodically, that has something to do with life rising up, just like the tilt of the earth and seasons and things like that. So yeah, they're very important. They're fated, they're transformational, and they're powerful.
So let's go there for a minute. Oh, first off, you're probably not a statistician. I'm not a statistician. I do wonder what the odds are of it being exactly the matchup, because to me, that's a hole in the veil. That just blows it apart right there.
Yeah, no, I would imagine that it is wildly, impossibly synchronistic, that it's exactly the right sort of setup. So, the shadow is always in. The shadow is always happening. The sun is bright. And if you were looking at the solar system from above, you'd see the penumbral shadow off, Earth and the moon. It's that sometimes we pass through that shadow. So how that works technically is that there's just this like line that the Earth's orbit is in. It's kind of not, we're in space, we're floating in space, but it's like consistent. The moon whips around the Earth, but also has a line around the sun, right, with us, that's different from the Earth's line, and it's not the same line.
Yeah.
Therefore, there's moments when they do intersect. When the sun gets to a certain point in that arc, when the moon is doing its thing and the moon passes through the shadow, that's what makes an eclipse. And so we've got that coming up in about a week.
So when we air this, it could be days, it could be.
Oh, that's true. When you air this, it'll be like 4 days later. Yes.
Yeah. So I had my birthday yesterday, August 25th. Hi, everybody. I'm another round around the sun. I am 55 years of age. And yesterday was a beautiful, glorious day. Nothing could go wrong, even if things went wrong. It didn't matter. It was awesome. It was beautiful. Today, Michael, here's what's going on. And I think it actually has to do with this. And I think it has bearing for everybody. There are parts of my job I absolutely love. There are parts of my job that I have muddled through for 10 years that I'm really not that good at, but I've hung in there. And what I heard this morning is, with a lot of expletives, which I'm not going to go into here, no more, you're done. And today has been a day of you are done. You can't do that anymore. You aren't going there anymore. It is as if everything has shifted as soon as we got past my birthday and hit, I don't know if it's the lunar eclipse. I don't know if it's getting into Virgo. I don't know what's coming with Pisces, but it is all, I don't know if it's 55. It has all come together at once. And I am, like I said, I'm laughing, I'm woohoo, and I'm also crying. And I think that's the energy we're all experiencing right now.
Yeah, I want to say a couple of things about this. One is that we are all in a wild soup of revolutionary change. The outer planets are all lined up in this, what's called a grand sextile. So we've got Pluto, slow change, interacting with Neptune and Saturn. That's like responsibility and inspiration and spirit. And then Uranus, fast change, revolutionary change. And because they're all operating in this real productive geometry, the world has gone mad and things are happening at breakneck speed, faster and more outrageous than any of us could ever have imagined. So we are all in that soup, and the eclipse season that's right up ahead of us is interacting with all of those outer planets. What you had as a personal experience is that on your birthday, where the consciousness of Virgo was lit up in its kind of purity, great day. But ultimately, the Virgo archetype is about the daily routine. What do we have to attend to every day? Now, that has other implications. It's not just about like the to-do list. It's also about being of service. Because if we attend to something every day, we have to attend to being of service to others every day. So Virgo also rules service. When you say to me, I'm overwhelmed with like stuff, that's like the Virgo sensibility that the to-do list has 75,000 things on it, and I've got to do them all. So one of the reasons why it's valuable to even chat about this for you at a personal level, because this full moon eclipse that's coming up on Sunday has the sun in Virgo. We're all consciously aware of how we're being of service, what's our health and our body's shaped like, and how do we relate to the daily routine. You need to let go of some stuff. And the Pisces moon taps right into our unconscious, because that's what the archetype of Pisces represents. And full moons are about release. So all of us are getting an opportunity in this first eclipse, that's a full moon, to let go of anything known or unknown, conscious or unconscious, that would inhibit your ability to have a daily routine that lifts you up, instead of one that's pummeling you down. Yeah, that's why lovely day, horrible day.
I'm laughing because a routine is I need for my brain, for whatever reason, because of the concussion, isn't getting enough blood flow, limiting belief. It hurts. After I do exercise, it feels better. The only way to make it work today was to do a hyperbaric chamber session in the morning, which is when I typically exercise. And then the day has been yet. So as my wife went up to take baby bear to sleep for the nap, she's going, routine. We need to go back to a routine of self-care first.
Yes. Yes. Must. When the nodes of the moon, which are the points that tell us where the eclipses are going to be happening, when they moved into Virgo and Pisces in 2024, and it was like right in the middle of 2024, and I knew that 2025 and 6 are coming, my mouth was filled with the words and the phrases, spiritual practice first, spiritual practice first, just because I don't know how else to move through life. And for you, your physical exercise is a part of your practice. I know that because we've talked about it. Plus, you need the vasodilation that exercise gives you so that your brain is getting more blood flow.
Yeah. So, all right, where do we go first? Do we go to the black moon? Do we go to the fact that people may... Yes, we have to go here first. You call it eclipse season.
Yes. Let's talk about the season of each eclipse. Can be either what we call a south node eclipse or a north node eclipse. So back to that vision, the visual of the moon and the earth crossing a certain path where the moon and the earth pass through the shadow. The sun is going to move throughout the ecliptic and line up with one of the nodes. When it is within 12 degrees of one of the nodes of the moon, that signals the angle is ready to create an eclipse. Then 6 months later, the sun will be aligned with the opposite node, and then back, and then forth, and then back, right? So each eclipse season has a theme, whether it's dealing with the past more or dealing with the future more based on the node. This is a south node eclipse season because the sun is near the south node that we understand as the point that represents our past, all of the things that have occurred along the way where we shove things we don't want to look at. So it's like our karmic basket, but it also represents where we've come from. So if eclipse seasons are very powerful for release and setting up new movement with intentions, and it's a south node eclipse season, it's way more about releasing the past and trusting that as we do, we get to move forward more powerfully because we have less, baggage that we're taking with us. Some astrologers, and frankly, I don't get this because it wasn't the way I was taught, and it doesn't even make sense to me, will call this full moon a north node eclipse because the moon is at the north node because it's opposite the sun. But that's not what makes the eclipse season the eclipse season. It's what we're aware of. And then the eclipse as the unconscious is like turned up 6 notches. But it's our conscious awareness that says, nope, we're letting go of the past, we'll let it go of the past, we'll let it go of the past. And in 6 months, I'm going to be talking all about North Node eclipse. It's way more about where we're going next. That way, this full moon, that's the first eclipse, counts even more because we're in the past considerations and it's a big psychic surgery release mechanism.
Thank you. Psychic surgery, B slaps, subconscious. All of this, is this to say that everything pushed under the carpet right now, everything we've hidden, every pattern that's not working for us is going, here comes Johnny.
Well, first of all, I'm loving your hyperbole because that's my game. And I always have to sort of pull it back and say, especially when there are moments when something is really big, I have to say, I know I'm hyperbolic, but I really mean it. So there is, in fact, 2 ways that the solar system is working with this full moon eclipse on Sunday that has to do with shadow and looking at things that we've not been willing to look at. The other one is Jupiter. We'll talk about that later when we want to talk about the happy stuff. Because there's very beneficial energy in the eclipse as well. Black moon Lilith is a shadow point. It's a point, it's not a body. It's inside the moon's orbit, not outside, but it's therefore related to the moon, which is our unconscious. So it's about unconscious material. But because it's inside the moon's orbit, it's like the shadow material that's like ours that's going to pop up, right? If you think of like the wounded unconscious as like a sewer, Black Moon Lilith is the manhole cover that's always popping off when the putrid stuff gets a little too. So it's where we shove our shame, our sexual repulsions and challenges, which is really shame too, and anything that we would like to repress. And therefore, that which will not stand for being repressed. So the nodes of the moon are in opposition. All oppositions are tense. No matter what bodies are opposing, they force something to occur, right? They have to dance, swerve, make love, something. Given that oppositions are tense, there's a thing called an easy opposition. When a planet or point divides the 180-degree geometry of the opposition into two easy parts, a sextile and a triangle, which is 60 and 120 equals 180, is made easier, but shadowy or shadow-wise, it's like, wow, there it is, 18 degrees of Scorpio hitting the south node in a sextile, and then 18 degrees of Scorpio hitting the Pisces north node in a trine. Sextiles require effort, trines don't. Remember, this is a south node eclipse. We're letting go of the past. Black moon allows us to uncover the shadow material that's this moment ripe, right? Not down there or that thing or the old, like what's right there that needs to be attended to in our collective shadow is geometrically activated in a full moon that's already a release. I call it a psychic surgery. I'm never random about that. I have to have a reason for using that phrase. And Pisces Virgo is one of the ways I would use that phrase, because Virgo is about the body, and through the spirit of Pisces comes the surgical interventions from our like higher selves. But Black Moon trining the North Node also says, if you do a little bit of shadow work and release in this full moon, you will be able to more gracefully move towards your future, because this moment is asking us to look deeply within and let some
well put. And what I would add to that is, where's the anesthesiologist?
You know, it's funny because I call Pisces the anesthetic of the zodiac, because it does. I feel it as a kind of balmy, softer energy, but I don't think this eclipse is going to be soft.
Is that the energies, the overwhelming energies? Maybe we get to back up. And I want to understand the difference between Black Moon Lilith and the common term being thrown around, a black moon. But the energies this year to me are, well, you predicted them, but oh my God.
Yes. Well, remember when I said to you in 19 that 2020 would be like beyond anything we had ever seen before?
Yeah, 2020 seems easy now.
Yeah, we've been prepared. But I remember in January of 2020 being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Same thing this year. I knew it was going to be off the charts, but it is way crazier than I ever anticipated. And it's a revolutionary time, no mistaking it, right? So the news is simply reflecting the collective's very crisis-driven moment of change. We're in a wild season of change. It's, all of the energetic planets that are reflecting that change is going to diminish a little bit in the fall when some of the players retrograde back into their previous signs. That will be a little less fiery, but then 2026, it's this grand sextile is present all year because everybody moves into their new signs for the foreseeable future. None of us are escaping this sort of crazy moment, and both lunations tap into the grand sextile fairly directly, the new moon more so, but we really are, we're always doing this, but it feels higher stakes for me that we're in an individual experience that is aligned with a collective experience, but that collective experience is wildly unstable and rife with change that we haven't even finished. So we get to release a lot.
Okay, you are both, if I have this right, a psychologist and an astrologist. How do we meld that together and say, what is a tool I use right now to ground? Like, I'm going to throw myself in the water. And as strange as that sounds, that is grounding for me. It is certainly a release of energy. How do we ground at this time so we are not spun out by these energies?
You know, my favorite go-to intervention in the world of shadow work is the mirror. Like when I'm doing my shadow class, which I teach just about once every year, before class even starts, the homework is to go to the mirror, look at yourself, see if you can say, I love you. Not I love me or I love Michael, but I love you. The experience that you have at the mirror will be a barometer of how much self-love there is and how much self-love there isn't enough to get you centered in self to look at yourself and feel that love and connection. So I'm thinking Virgo Pisces. That's why I'm bringing this up. It's not random. Virgo Pisces is kind of like looking in the mirror and having a visit with God, right? It's not the magic mirror that, like, got the queen all wrapped up in envy and shadow and murderousness, but it's still like a mirror to the divine through your eyes. And that's where you want to go to talk about your fears of how unstable things are. Don't pick up the phone and complain to your friends. You can now and then, but go to a place where you're connecting with self at a deeper level. And even if you feel like you're faking it, you just say, I love you, and we got this.
I'm holding this is a quartz that I got for clearing purposes that I haven't used yet. It is, like, to me, a very special wand, and sooner or later I will start using this. I had to pick this up because this, at least to me, so, and I think, forgive me if I've mentioned this many times to you before. Yeah, wow, 2004? No, might have even been earlier, 2002 or something. I went home. I'd watched a Dr. Wayne Dyer PBS special. He's trying to sell the whole enchilada, and I go home with the kind of the words or something in my head that, you know, if you believe in a being or a source of everything, and the source of everything made anything, that you come from that source, then you are love. Okay, that's cool. That makes sense. And I went home and I went to my mirror, and I looked in the mirror as you're saying, and I said, I love myself. At which point I did something that would have made a Sith proud, or Darth Vader for that matter. I spun around, grabbed the shower curtain rod, yanked it, shattered the mirror in a whole bunch of pieces, demolished all the furniture in the bathroom. You get where I'm going.
That was a perfect reflection of your self-love. That doesn't happen today when you look in the mirror.
Oh God, no, the reverse. It's total and complete,
Total love.
And it's not ego, but this is graduate level work you're giving people here today.
Yeah, no, this is work. This isn't casual. This is work. Yeah, and also, like, I believe in the resilience of human beings because I can look back and sort of know it both personally and collectively. And another thing that I would sort of just recommend is just don't forget that your fearful mind is like a chemistry set. Right? It doesn't need but the match of the first thought, and then it's
Yes.
going to be all on its own, generating more and more and more. And some of it's going to be mustard gas and shit like that. Right. So I believe in our resilience. And sometimes if you spend some time just sort of gritting the idea, even if it's, again, even if you don't believe it, mantras about resilience, I think, are valuable, because I think we've got this, whatever that means.
Couldn't agree more.
We've moved through worse than this, maybe not in our lifetimes, but we, the human race, has. And I believe in us.
I love it. And I do say that regularly. We've got this. I say that to Jessica all the time. She's like, you've got what? I'm like, everything. It's all going to be good. We could have some bumps.
Bottom line, Michael, is life happens one day at a time.
Yes.
And so when you say we've got this, this is now I'm talking to your people, not you.
Yes.
Saying I've got this, we've got this on a Tuesday is an affirmation in the present moment of our capacity, but it counts for that Tuesday.
Yes.
If you think that that declaration has to be about next month and next year, like you're doing it wrong. We got this is right here, right now. We got this. And then that makes for like a better Tuesday, which ultimately makes for a better Wednesday.
Thank you.
Maybe not mood wise, like you're having a shitty day, but like in terms of growth.
And okay, even if I am having a shitty day, and this has been quite the day for me. It has been quite the day of, there's so much writing going on in my head of processing and writing. I don't know if it's a chapter. I don't know if it's a book. I don't know if it's a what, but it is really pithy learnings about myself, and really pithy learnings about what's important on a whole new level. And again, which I will find a way to not do anymore. And the importance of this moving forward, so that I'm going, I get it. You're bringing me to my knees for a very good reason.
Yeah. Which you might not know on that Tuesday.
No. All right. Black Moon versus Black Moon
Okay.
Lilith. And then we'll fast forward from there.
So yeah, I'm always the guy that disappoints or says, I dismiss things that a lot of people are interested in. So let's start with what a black moon is in astrology.
Yes.
2 new moons in the same calendar month. A blue moon is 2 full moons in the same calendar month. So yes, I've said this many times before, and I've said it here with you. Who gives a shit? Putting together the lunar movement with the Western calendar is just a fool's errand. When we used to follow the moon in our calendar, black moon would be irrelevant, blue moon would be irrelevant, because anyway. So, but that's what a black moon is. For me, the only thing that's interesting in that world isn't 2 in a month, 2 in the same sign. Now that has me very interested, because now we're telling a story of like a double opportunity to work through what an archetype can bring us. So the new moon that kicked off this cycle was at like 2 degrees of Virgo. The new moon that's an eclipse at the end of the month is at the 30th final mastery degree of Virgo, which we'll be talking about when we get to that eclipse. So having 2 new moons, especially when the second one is at the 30th mastery degree, really allows us to go deeper. And so for me, I'll call that a black moon, but I'll always qualify it that it's not technically one, but it's juicier to have the double archetype. The black moon that this is, because of seasonality, this is interesting to astronomers, and it was the astronomical community that sort of started creating the notion that every season has 3 lunations. Every once in a while, one will have 4. And so that is considered whatever is the last one of the season, if it's a fourth, that's a black moon. So astronomers created that to speak to other astronomers about the phenomena of a fourth lunar cycle, fourth new moon in a season. I also don't give a shit about that. Like, so? Like, it's hard for me to like feel inspired by that. I know that people are, and I want to be really clear. Every time I'm talking about astrology, I am talking about my experience, which allows for other people to have bona fide experiences that I might not resonate with.
Can we, if we are all thinking about the same thing, whether or not it is true in astrology, but just the basis that we are focused on that same thing at the same time?
Yes, Michael, I'm so glad you mentioned that because, yes, the collective thought is powerful. And I might be a lone voice and this isn't going to move me. But if there are millions of people vibing on a black moon being more potent because of that, then it's so. Because the power of the collective is a thing. It's not something we imagine and talk about. It's a thing. So yes, I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you. So do we need to mention, is there any reason to mention the partial solar eclipse? Since we're talking about eclipse season, these things come around together.
Yes, I would say this, that total is total, partial is partial. So just think of it as a size thing. Total is a bigger energy than partial. But we're talking so minuscule and more interesting to the astronomers than the astrologers. What we should talk about, I think, that we haven't really addressed is Jupiter's participation.
Oh boy,
in both of these lunations.
Jupiter's big.
So here's where we get the idea that though this moment is hard, as you so aptly described earlier, worth it, and that there's energy in the lunation itself and the next one that sort of tells the story that there's a kind of bountiful movement forward towards more abundance. So that's for all of you manifestor folk. Jupiter is the manifestation planet. He is exalted in Cancer, so it's his favorite place to dole out cash and prizes. And he's forming an easy opposition, just like Black Moon Lilith is from the other side of the cosmos. Black Moon Lilith is in Scorpio, and Jupiter is in Cancer, and they're actually trining, right? So that means that Jupiter, who's making the full moon easier, because if we were to anthropomorphize him, it might be something like, I know it's a rough moment, but trust me, lie on the surgeon's table and let as much go as possible. Don't be afraid of the shadow and the scary, because I'm right here promising a better future, more abundance, and a sense of possibility that there can be lovely expansion in life, even if the outer landscape continues to be a little chaotic and unstable for the next foreseeable years. And this energy, because Jupiter moves slow enough, it's in place for both lunations.
And can you mention again what a trine is for people?
Oh, a trine would be a triangle, 120-degree angle. So, you know, when in geometry class in junior high, the teacher said there's a point in space, and then there's another point in space with a chalk, and then there's this point, and they relate to each other in an angle. That's the left half of astrology. It's all geometry. So energy moves and we move with it, but it has different qualities based on the geometry. So a trine is 120 degrees. It's considered the most open, harmonious angle. It's the most beautiful in a way for the math nerds who look at shapes. What it means is that the two the two bodies that are participating in the trine are both singing at the top of their voices, but in harmony and blending. Like in the old days, we would think of trines as bringing good things. but that ain't right at all. Trines just mean flow, and sometimes flow. I mean, this is my sense. I have so much energetic sensitivity and sensitivity to sound, and yeah. So I feel, the moving energy kind of big, and trines overwhelm me often because it's just so much energy. So if Black Moon Lilith and Jupiter are in a trine, that means expansion, but shadow work are both saying, I'm important, but they're not canceling each other out like it would be if it was a square. They would each say, I'm important, I'm important. In a trine, it's I'm important, let's sing a song.
How long does the song get sung for?
Well, in this case, the idea of Black Moon Lilith and Jupiter, about 2-3 weeks. So we're already sort of in it, right? And it'll kind of dissipate when Jupiter moves on. Black Moon Lilith is a little bit slower. But loosely, like all late summer.
Thank you. So we're going to move past Virgo here in a minute, and we're going to get to some other things. But what is an anoretic Virgo?
Well, now that's the new moon partial eclipse. Shall we switch gears?
Sure.
You feel complete with the full moon?
Is there anything else we need to do during the full moon?
Certainly, if you want to ritualize the full moon, because it's a release, right? That whatever you would choose to do, you would do it in the spirit of the intention to let go of things. I have a prayer that I share periodically. People might think I share it randomly, but I only speak about this particular prayer for a full moon when there's some energy present that really deeply connects us to unconscious places, because we don't always know what we're letting go of. The thing is, you don't have to know, but you can still set powerful intentions. So the prayer is, I am now ready to release anything and everything, because we want to release it all, known and unknown, conscious and unconscious, that would inhibit my ability to create a masterful life. Something, blah, blah, blah. You can fill that last piece in with anything that you desire. But it's the known, unknown, conscious, and unconscious that tells your unconscious that we mean business. Like if you say we're good and the unconscious says, no, we're not, the unconscious wins. But if you say I'm willing to feel good, the unconscious can't object. It'll say, okay, I guess he's willing. So that's why I encourage those pieces of language, known and unknown, conscious and unconscious.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes, I am now ready to release. I'll give it in like the themes. I am now ready to release anything and everything, known and unknown, conscious and unconscious, that would inhibit my ability to, and then you fill in the blanks. Simpler the better sometimes with prayers like this, right? When I'm doing my prayers for others in my life, which I do regularly, it's always for grace, right? If I get hubristically connected, like I know what they need, that's nonsense. But if I pray for grace, then anything they're moving through will be easier because grace is present. So it's sort of a similar idea here.
Forgive me. We used to have an RV pulled by a truck. One was grace, one was ease. And right now we just had our massive RV break. It structurally, they called it stress fractures, and went back to the factory, and we're going to trade it in after that. But I find that fascinating. We get to release that. And here you are talking about,
listen, that counts. Like, pay attention, kids, sorry, I call everybody kids.
It's all good.
I think I call people kids because I'm a teacher at heart and have always been that. And my first teaching was as a 20-year-old getting a BFA in acting, teaching little kids acting in a summer camp. So every class, we're like, hey, kids. So think that's where it comes from. This is important, that we look at life as everything is everything. Like when I'm doing a session and I talk about a transit and, someone says, well, is that work? Is that here? It's like everything is everything. So if there's an expansion, everything can expand. If there's a contraction, anything and everything is up for contraction, right? So
forgive me. The RV broke because every time it expands to the sides, it has been breaking things. And this expansion has now created stress fractures.
Right. But
this
so
sounds
the
today,
point is
Michael.
that you might not think of that as a full moon eclipse ritual release, but it is. Right? Everything is everything. And you might think of your rituals with the full moon to be like sort of sequestered and isolated from the rest of your life, but it's not. It might be the formal ritual piece of it, but if your RV is going away or something happens in your neighborhood you didn't want, or a crack in your porch, then they count as unconscious movement of things that are getting ready to leave.
Which means to me, and then we'll move on from this, we will release this new moon, but this means that, how do I like to put it? We are living in a waking dream. Everything's symbolic. Everything has meaning to it. Everything we get to without going nuts, pay attention to, because it's all coming to teach us, to share, to help, to be released, and to heal us.
Yes. Yes. And when you live with your eyes open to this, like in the synchronicity waves, and if people are listening are starting to see numbers everywhere, that's the beginning of synchronistic view or vision. You see the numbers everywhere. That's not even the first step of a large staircase. That's like you standing on the floor before you've stepped up. It is possible to live in such grooved connection to like flow, you begin to see it everywhere. And I think that what happens is we've got like, horizontal living in our body. Then there's like this archetypal realm that we reach in dreams. And then we meditate to get into an energetic realm. But the whole system lifts up if you dive into a practice and devote for a couple of years or decades, is you start to live in archetypal mind. And then you go even higher in your meditations. And then you move through the world recognizing that the person who's triggering you is just an aspect of yourself showing you to you. And you get a little witness in there that says, oh, look, I'm having a conversation with a very angry part of me. And
yeah, it was yesterday, day before. So last week we had this bald eagle come and sit in our yard for a good hour at breakfast. I was told to get done with my writing, go downstairs. You need to have breakfast early. I don't need breakfast early. I'm busy doing my writing. I get downstairs, it's bald eagle waiting for me 2 days in a row. And then the next day I'm writing and thinking about how things get to change. And there's this bird swooping around outside, but it wasn't just any giant bird. It was a vulture.
ooh, so you sort of got like the light and shadow of, powerful bird medicine.
And you can understand as you go through when these things come and when these visitors make themselves apparent to you, grab your Llewellyn's Dream Dictionary, grab whatever you want, but do the work and say, this was no accident. Why did you, meaning me on the other side or whatever you want to call it, bring me this now?
That's right. So the Anoretic degree, the new moon is the second one in a row in the sign of Virgo, and it's at 30th degree, 29 degrees and like, I think 7 minutes of Virgo. So the final degree is a degree of mastery. The principle of I'm born on the cusp, not in astrology, created by the newspaper industry. See, the newspaper industry invented horoscopes, not astrology. The newspaper industry showed everybody their sun sign. So now everybody knows that a sun sign is and what theirs is, but not from astrologers, from newspapers. So there is no cusp. In fact, when you get to the final degree, the idea would be you're not looking where you're going next, which is what the cusp was. The cusp, by the way, was just for the people like, I'm a Leo sun born on August 23rd. Most people say, well, you're a Virgo. It's like, nope, not in 1963. An hour later, yes. So for those people, they invented cusp because it'd be like, well, my birthday is blah, blah, blah. At any rate, forgive the tirade. When a body gets to the final degree of a mansion that it's in, a sign that it's in, it turns around and says, well, have I mastered everything here?
And happy birthday, Michael.
Well, thank you. Happy birthday, Michael.
Well, thank you.
So to have a new moon at an anoretic degree is already an amplifier. So it's about Virgo, remember, health, healing, service, daily routine that we can live with, understanding the mechanisms of being in a body without losing the spiritual connection, which we pick up from the full moon that precedes it. So I love that this lunation is at the 30th degree. And then on the other side of the cosmos, you have Saturn at 28 Pisces and Neptune at 0 Aries. So that means that the new moon exactly opposes the great teacher and the great spirit, who, by the way, are hanging out all of this year and next year. Saturn teaches us what we have to be responsible for and will not give us any wiggle room these days. Neptune inspires us to tap into our spiritual center, our unconscious, for not just spiritual connection, but creative inspiration. Any inspiration that turns into form in some way requires Neptune. So if we're setting intentions in this opposition, then that doubles down on the importance of setting intentions that match the responsibility that you might know that now you have to meet the world in a certain way. Like doing the easier, softer way and a half-assed job is in the past. We don't get to do that. And so that opposition hits. The new moon will trine both the agents of change. Pluto, slow and deep change. Uranus, fast and revolutionary change. That pattern is a triangle from the new moon to Uranus and Pluto. And then the bottom angle where Neptune and Saturn are makes it a kite formation.
Ooh.
And what do kites do? They fly. The head of the kite is Saturn and Neptune. So that means that as we set intention, we are sort of pushed forward in a kite led by responsibility and inspiration and spiritual connection. Mercury is right up there near the new moon, but in Libra.
Okay.
What that does for us is that while the sun and the moon are sort of digging in to the Virgo archetype to create like rows of, seed, holes in the fertile soil. I was trying to go for a farming analogy, but I blew it. Anyway, so while we're very busy, conscious awareness and unconscious, digging into the soil with Virgo, our mind and perceptions are in a different place. They're in a mental place, an airy place, an air sign, Libra. And that's where Pluto and Uranus are, in air signs, right? So the trine is interesting because it's mutable Earth, sun and moon, trining air, and trines typically match elements. Like it's not natural for Earth to trine air. That's why Mercury in air is trining the agents of change. So what that means is that as we're in our mental consideration of what our bodies want to do, the body has preference with the sun and the moon, our conscious awareness and our unconscious, and the mind is aware of all the changes. You know, the fact that this kite with a new moon is set up with the outers in Saturn, it's like quite literally the new moon that starts up how we are all going to move through this new crazy world. So you can think of the summer as being like the beginning of the breakdown of things. The pattern that reflects those breakdowns is starting to diminish, but will be banging back in next spring all year. So this is the new moon that we get to like say, where do I want my body and what do I want my body to be doing? And the mind will be able to help. In the process of creating intentions, I would suggest a deep meditation before you begin. Mercury rules Chiron, rules Virgo as well as Chiron, and Mercury is there nearby. Write it out, write it out, write it out, write it out.
How important is intention at this time? And is this a time where we get to breathe and relax and almost step back, or we need to be going full
Nah, I don't, you know, people are asking all the time on social media, like, you know, when's it going to end? The biggest, heaviest months of the year are the summer and into the early fall, right? So it is true that the end months of the year shouldn't be quite as wild as the summer, but we're not escaping this. Certainly none of this is going to end until the end of 2026 because the reflection that's now is going to be present all next year. So there'll be more revolutionary, unexpected changes all year next year. And it's no mistaking that this peaks in November when the United States has an election. So much of what's happening in the world landscape is, you know, astrology is reflecting that tale. Everything is everything. None of us escape the fact that if it's happening out there, it's also happening inside all of us. Sextiles require action to create change, but you can pick up this energy and use it very positively at the personal level, very positively. Well, you're talking about the power of Pluto. Pluto is our power that we typically project onto other people until at some point in our life we learn that, oh my God, I have the power. I had it all along. So Pluto in the mix and in Aquarius is like, step up and get into your rebellious, you know, nature. Then Uranus, fast change, sudden change, pivots. You want Uranus if you're going to create anything that might shift or change, or has to shift or change to make it sort of unfold and happen. And then the fact that you have Neptune in between. Neptune is our inspiration. So imagine you're a creative who maybe for the last few years was struggling finding the motivation to express yourself. This setup is outrageous for starting up an intention for, remember, what do I want my body to feel like and what do I want my body to be doing? And then we can add the kite formation to say, I personally tap into my capacity to change things utterly. And I trust that's not only inspiration is going to be there, but my spiritual connection that's already established is always guiding me forward. So I think there's tremendous opportunity for all of us to get bigger and better in our personal choices and projects and expressions because the energy is productive. It's just that the world is using that productivity to generate breakdown and chaos and change because that's what the moment is.
So two pieces that come to that. First off, I think I heard you mention much earlier abundance and abundance this fall. So let's go there, and then I'll hit that second part of doing the work.
Well, Jupiter is still in the same proximity in Cancer enough to have that loose sextile with the South Node and trine with the North Node. Let's focus on that trine, right? Because it's a new moon, even though it's near the South Node, it's like you can't intend to go into the past or let go of the past. The idea of a new moon that's at the south node is the full moon that preceded it made a lot of room. You shat out a lot of gunk so that by the time you get to this new moon, that south node is empty. So you can now set intentions that are creatable, more so because you let some stuff go.
Thank you. So from there, the how much can we affect the collective consciousness by doing the work individually at this time?
Well, my belief is that that's how we save ourselves, right? That the moment there are enough people on the planet holding a higher level of consciousness, then things can shift. I don't even think it needs to be like, 50%. There's a tiny, I'm sure math could describe the tipping point. So I live my life based on that principle. I don't even know if it's true. Like it's a woo-woo idea.
It feels right to me, though.
Feels true. That's right. It feels true and right. Certainly, I'm a great example of someone who big in the world from the beginning. So I've been living out loud from the get-go. And there was so much trauma from my childhood that my 20s were really spent in having power struggles and arrogance and criticism and nasty tone of voice projected out in the world because that was what was inside of me. Fortunately, I dove into this work at 15. Like I wasn't wasting any time. And so you've had the same experience, Michael. We have had the experience of cleaning and clearing out. And the way you get to live when you do that work is worth every bit of pain and difficulty. So I would say it's never been more important. I don't know that it's different now than it was 5 years ago or in the past, but it's never been more important because if we don't participate vibrationally somehow in a positive way, there's enough challenging negativity that can bring changes we don't want to see.
Thank you. On that note, I guess just a last few questions. First off, where can people go to find your work, to find your daily astro alert, to find everything you have to offer, Michael?
MichaelLennox.com. And if you want to see like my video content on social media, which I do daily, hashtag Red Robe Astrology. Because I do it in the morning at 4:30. I'm in my bathrobe. So MichaelLennox.com and getting on my mailing list is what to do. I teach shadow work and psychologically based classes. I teach astrology. There's an astrology school. There's some free stuff. There's nothing coming up immediately to like promote because I'm in one of my shadow classes that started a week or so ago. But yeah, I do a lot of different stuff and come play with me.
Thank you. Thank you. How would you wrap up either the end of this year, or is there anything else that we need to know as we're going into 2026?
Let me do two things. Let me first speak to one last thing that I want to chat about with this new moon. And then we can talk about like the rest of the year. So Mars in Libra, not happy there, right? Too much balance and harmony in Venus's domain for the planet of action. So at the new moon, he is also at a mastery degree. He's at 30 degrees, the 30th degree of Libra. That means the next day, he will change signs and move into Scorpio. What I like about that, just from a Mars perspective, Mars is the body. Mars is at 29 Libra. The new moon is at 29 Virgo. That's called a semi-sextile. It's not an angle we talk about much because it can't do much, but it has meaning and significance. It's the angle of intimacy. Any closer, You're too close. You can't stretch out. So if they were like, if Mars were halfway through Libra instead of at the end, forming a semi-sextile, Mars wouldn't be able to activate embodiment consciousness as we're setting new moon intentions. But 30 degrees away, it's like he's perfectly set up to receive the imprint of our mental capacity to create intentions, put them into the body that Mars invented, that Virgo runs. Virgo's like the gas and the oil. And our bodies receive the intentions. Now, Mars is in conjuncting, that's a 150-degree angle. That's like an exit strategy. It's called the Great Eliminator. So Mars is in conjuncting the fast, unstable change of Uranus. And he's also in conjuncting Saturn and Neptune, responsibility and spirit. That's called a finger of God or a yod or a finger of fate if you don't like the G word. It's a navigating mechanism, like you yod back and forth in a sailboat to catch the wind to get where you want to go. So the idea is when a yod is present, any shifts or changes you make in a small way lead you to bigger changes down the line, like leaving a freeway. The exit, it's just a 150-degree angle off the main drag. But catch me in 100 miles and I'm now in Albuquerque. So to have this yod connected to our bodies and then to have the very next day, the body planet move into the sign of change and transformation, Pluto's sign, where for the next 6 weeks, Mars, the planet of action, will receive his marching orders from Pluto, the Lord of the underworld, by being in that sign. That's a place where we can create new embodiments to match the intentions that we set. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned the yod because it's a very sexy part of the new moon to come. So your other question, like, how do we navigate the rest of the year?
Yes, and looking for those on ramps or off ramps quickly.
Well, what can I say? Let's see. So the eclipses of this month just make the entire month like just profoundly bumpy and rock'em sock'em. You know, we call the time between eclipses the wormhole because we're sort of traveling at breakneck speed through time and space. And it's just a cute little moniker to describe the intensity, right? So when we get into like the months to come, we're sort of back to mostly sort of ordinary. God, I hate to say this because
ordinary 2025 intensity.
like the intensity that we had before July and August. There isn't a whole lot that we are going to go through besides the regular full moons and new moons. You know, you've got Mercury going to go retrograde again, where the shadow starts in October, and then the backward motion is sort of all through much of November. But then even in November, that's when Uranus will move back into Taurus. Now, Uranus is still the unstable planet of change that he is. But in Gemini, it's chaos and ideas and words and laws and stuff. Taurus, it's slower, it's deeper, it's a little less unstable. Neptune and Saturn in Pisces will bring their energy into that sort of anesthetic of Pisces. The one caveat I'm going to say to this, in case those months are rockier than I'm anticipating, everyone is changed from these months of direct movement and interaction, so that when these planets return to the previous sign, they may be bringing some of the chaos with them in a way that wasn't present in the early months or last year. I don't know. it certainly has the potential to feel a little less chaotic, but only a little. And then next year comes.
I've asked you this before. I believe this will be my wrap up. If you have more to say, that's awesome too. I think we had this conversation / argument. Don't know if it was earlier this year or last year where I said, what brings you the greatest hope? And you're like, Michael, it's not what I'm seeing right now. But what does bring you great hope for 2026 at this point so that we are motivated to do the work and not duck and cover?
It's funny that you're bringing up hope. Synchronicities. Last night, I'm watching Sandman.
Yeah.
On
Which
Netflix.
is a nickname of mine growing up.
Was it really? Of course, Sandman.
Yeah.
Totally get it. So people were recommending it to me all along because it's about dreams. It's about Morpheus, the Lord of Dreams, and it's this sort of modern, thriller. At any rate, I won't get into the whole story of it, but there was a scene at the end of the show after a lot of really lugubrious and scary, violent things happening, where a character talked about that when all things are stripped away, hope is always left. In fact, what it is, it's a battle between Morpheus and Satan, where they each create. It's like, I'm a wolf. Well, I'm a hunter. Well, I'm a rain cloud, and the very last one was, I am darkness, said Satan, and you think that he's lost, but then Morpheus says, I am hope. That's the end. Satan loses because hope is greater than anything else, because it's the one spiritual principle that when you lose your trust and your faith and your grounding and your life almost, hope will never abandon you. It's built in somehow. So I don't know what was sort of causing me to reject joining you with hope, but I'm in a different place now where hope feels present and shareable. And I'll add that if you don't feel hopeful, practice gratitude. Gratitude is what lubricates the system. If hope is always there, gratitude will start moving your motor so that you can perhaps feel the hope.
Thank you. I will ask one thing. I had that we may or may not put on here. I had a dream last week, 2 parts of it. In the first part of the dream, it hurt. It was like having a thorn in my finger. And then it was a little golden thing that would come out. Not quite an amulet, not quite a key, this little thing. And then it would open into more of a thing, and then more of a thing, and more of a thing. And then the next one would pop out. They are geometrical shapes and almost like 3-dimensional keys that I've never seen before that would come out of my fingers. And then in the next scene, they're saying it's not possible. You can't do it. And I am snowboarding or something, and I can't snowboard. I can't ski. The wildest, craziest avalanche thing out there, and doing it successfully. And I woke up thinking of these poking things out of my fingers. My fingers were still hurting. And then of surfing this giant avalanche.
So an avalanche is sort of like the impact of emotions that we've shoved away, that we've made cold, right? We've taken big feeling and we just sort of shove it someplace. And at a certain point, it comes down. The difference between that and, say, tsunami energy is that that's like emotional energy that's like emotional, overwhelming you. And the avalanche is, I don't know, cold, old, past, perhaps. But yeah, the fingers are our agency, right? Each body part would carry the symbolism of what it does. And since the fingers are what we make things with, even if you're not making things, you're typing. And I've used my fingers like they're, a third person in the room.
Who's the second?
These pieces coming out of you are about mastery. right? They're gold, they're precious. And they are to assist you in the things you make and the things that you do. But it costs you something. It's painful. Shadow work is painful. Growth is painful. Being assaulted by the world and finding the blessing in it is painful. So there's painful, you pay a price for that skill set. And the dream world just gave you the evidence that it's already occurring and the evidence that the skill set is there. You're capable of navigating, crashing, crushing, shift, and change.
Thank you.
Fabulous dream.
I love it. I appreciate it. This has been beautiful, Michael. This has been wonderful. I cannot thank you enough. We can go smolder after this. But for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun. You really get to do the work this fall, but those golden keys are inside of you as well. And above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! How does it get any better than this? What a special show. What an apt description of what's going on, what we get to go through, where we get to play, what we get to do to rise to a higher level. And that's how I see this time period, as bringing us up, 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 and way up. On that note, if you want to join a group of like-minded individuals, if you want to live, if you want to play at that highest note, at that highest level, come join us in the School of Mystics 4 Wednesdays each and every month, just as powerful recorded as it is live. We have attunements, we have transmissions, we have teachings, we have group intention meditations, we have clearings, and so much more. Here's the link below to come and join us and try out the School of Mystics if you simply want to bring your energy up on a daily basis and get a daily dose of goodness, a daily energy transmission. Come on over to Daily Woohoo, WOOHOO, dailywoohoo.com. It is my free little newsletter. It shares teachings, it shares energy, it has those transmissions, and it brings you up each and every day. And it's free, dailywoohoo.com. And if you want her to channel, learn how to hear from the other side, learn how to talk with your angels, with your guides, with your loved ones, simply come on over to automaticwriting.com. That's automaticwriting.com. Live classes each and every month, plus a video-based program where you can literally start channeling tomorrow. Here is a link to the next amazing show. Love you so, so much, and keep on shining bright. Woohoo! How does it get any better than this? I send you love. I send you love. I send you love. I send you love. Lots of love, everyone.